It began with a laugh. Ooh, Eli sat at the back of his classroom, watching everyone panic as his lie spread like wildfire. Ben didn't come to school because he's missing. It was supposed to be a joke, a silly story to spice up a boring Monday. But when the teacher froze, her face draining of color, Eli's grin faltered. His words had weight now. They had power. He wondered, for a split second, if this was how it felt to control reality, to twist truth into something new. But then came the whisper in his mind. What happens when a lie becomes the only truth you live in? The laughter in his chest died when the principal rushed in. Police were being called. Missing student. Real panic. Real fear. And in that instant, Eli felt it. The first sting of a game. Gone too far. Is wealth worth losing your soul? Or your peace? He thought. Only this time, the wealth was attention, and the price was something he couldn't yet see. He sat frozen, his classmates staring at him. He had wanted a story, now he was inside one, and there was no way to undo it. By lunchtime, the story had already reached every hallway. Ben's name echoed off lockers like a curse. Some students whispered prayers. Others stared at Eli as if he were the cause of something unholy. He laughed at first, pretending it was still funny. But deep down, the laughter scraped against guilt. Each echo of Ben's name felt heavier. His stomach twisted. He wanted to say it was all fake. But something in him froze. He liked the attention, the fear in people's eyes. For once, they looked at him like he mattered. So he kept quiet, letting the lie breathe. But every breath it took made it grow teeth. The school felt colder that afternoon. Eli's phone buzzed, non-stop, group chats exploding, people posting photos of Ben, police cars circling the streets. The sound of sirens made Ellis' chest tighten. He walked down the hall, pretending to be part of the worried crowd. He even whispered, "Hope they find him." But every word felt poisoned. The lie had escaped him now. It was no longer his to control. For the first time, Eli realized the scariest thing about lying wasn't being caught. It was watching your words come alive without you. That night, Eli sat at the dinner table, the TV replaying interviews about the missing boy. His mother's hands trembled around her mug. "You know Ben, right? You two are close." Eli nodded, swallowing hard. The lie burned on his tongue. He wanted to confess, to tell her it was all just a stupid joke, but then her eyes filled with tears. I can't imagine what his mother must be feeling. Guilt crushed him like a weight. Every heartbeat whispered, "Tell her." But fear spoke louder. So he smiled instead, saying softly, "Yeah, I hope they find him soon." When the phone rang later that night, Sarah answered, her voice shaking. They found him. Eli stood frozen in the hallway. For a moment, relief washed through him. Maybe everything would be fine now. But then her tone changed. "He's hurt, Eli. They found him in the woods." Silence. The lie had taken shape. Flesh. Blood. Eli's heart pounded like a drum inside a coffin. He wanted to scream that it wasn't real, that it started as a joke. But his voice vanished. His lie had stolen it. Outside, police sirens echoed again, closer this time. He looked at his reflection in the dark window and saw not himself, but the shadow of a boy who didn't know the difference between truth and trick anymore. Morning came heavy. Eli didn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt like the sound of footsteps coming for him. At school, the atmosphere was hushed, thick with whispers. Everyone talked about Ben's rescue, how he'd been found unconscious in the woods, bruised and cold. No one knew what happened, but everyone wanted answers. And Eli, the boy who knew things before others did, suddenly became interesting to the wrong people. Teachers watched him longer. The principal's office door stayed open, waiting. Even the police car parked outside the gate seemed to stare at him. He told himself to act normal, smile, pretend. But how do you pretend when the truth itself is now pretending to be? Inside the principal's office, the air was heavy with quiet authority. Mr. Hale leaned back, eyes fixed on Eli. You said yesterday you knew Ben was missing before anyone else did. How? Eli swallowed. It was just a joke, sir. I didn't mean. Mr. Hale didn't interrupt. He just waited. The silence felt like judgment. You think it's funny? The principal asked finally, his voice low, making people afraid. His throat tightened. He wanted to cry, to explain that it wasn't about cruelty. It was about being noticed. But the words tangled into shame. I'm sorry, he whispered. Mr. Hale sighed, looking not angry but disappointed. Sometimes sorry comes too late, Eli. Truth isn't just what you say. It's what you protect. Eli's heart sank. For the first time, sorry didn't fix anything. After school, Eli walked home slowly, every step echoing guilt. Kids avoided him now. Even the ones who used to laugh at his stories looked away. His phone buzzed. Messages from Ben's parents' social post. Thank you for your prayers. Ben's awake, but still shaken. Eli stared at it, shaking. Ben was alive. Relief washed over him. Then dread followed. What if Ben told them something? What if Ben said Eli's name? He deleted every chat, every joke he'd made. But it didn't erase the truth from his memory. His reflection in the phone's dark screen looked different, hollow. Lies were supposed to be temporary. But now it felt like the lie was the only thing still alive inside him. At home, his mother met him at the door, worry etched deep into her face. They called from school, she said quietly. What's going on, Eli? He tried to smile, but it broke halfway. It's just a misunderstanding. She looked at him long and hard, like she could see the truth hiding behind his eyes. You can tell me anything, she said gently. For a moment, he almost did. The words hovered on his lips like trapped birds. But fear, the kind that comes from seeing your own destruction, silenced him. He hugged her instead. Her warmth made the lie feel smaller, safer, but in her arms he realized something cruel. Every lie he told made the love she gave feel less deserved. That night, a knock came at the door. A heavy, official knock. Sarah opened it. 2 officers stood outside. Detective Moore introduced himself, voice calm but firm. We'd like to ask Eli a few questions. Eli's heart thudded like a drum in his ears. As they sat in the living room, the detective's eyes studied every twitch, every hesitation. You said you knew Ben was missing before anyone else, he said evenly. How? Eli's throat went dry. The lie that once felt like power now wrapped around his neck like a rope. He forced a weak smile. Just a guess, he said. Detective Moore leaned closer, voice soft. Son, no one guesses something like that. And for the first time, Eli realized the truth wasn't chasing him anymore. It was standing right in front of him. Eli barely slept. The detective's voice kept echoing in his head. No one guesses something like that. He woke before dawn, heart racing, convinced someone was watching. When he looked out the window, he saw nothing but the gray stillness of the street. Yet the silence felt too heavy, too aware. At breakfast, Sarah tried to smile. It'll be fine, she said. But Eli knew it wouldn't. The lie had grown its own shadow. Even the air in their house felt dishonest now. He stared into his cereal, the milk rippling like a reflection he couldn't trust. Every small sound, the spoon, the clock, his mother's footsteps, reminded him that the truth was patient. It didn't shout, it waited. At school, whispers turned sharper. Someone had leaked the police visit. Did he do it? A voice hissed behind him. Eli kept his head down, but the hallway stretched forever, lined with stairs. Even Ben's friends avoided his eyes. The world that once fed on his stories now spat them back in his face. He passed Ben's locker, still sealed with police tape. For a second, he stopped, fingers twitching to peel it off. to undo what he started. But the tape fluttered like a warning. Once broken, some seals never close again. He walked on, carrying a silence heavier than guilt. The silence of someone whose words had finally betrayed him. At lunch, Eli sat alone again, scrolling through his phone. A video appeared. Footage of police near the woods, the caption reading where Ben was found. He turned the volume down, but his pulse quickened. The woods went far. He'd been there before. Last week, in fact, when he'd first joked about Ben going missing. A sick thought slithered into his mind. What if someone saw me there? He remembered throwing rocks, laughing with Ben, saying, "Imagine if you disappeared and I had to tell everyone." It wasn't funny anymore. That laugh echoed in his skull like a confession. The more he tried to forget it, the louder it got. That afternoon, Detective Moore returned. This time at school. He met Eli in a quiet classroom, door closed. "We spoke to Ben," he said. Eli froze. The detective leaned forward. He doesn't remember much, but he remembers being near the woods. "And that you were there." The words hit like a blade. "We were just," Eli stammered, but Moore cut him off. "Why didn't you say that before?" "Because lies can't stand beside truth. They shrink and rot." Eli could feel it happening inside him. His voice trembled. "I didn't think it mattered." Moore's eyes narrowed. "It always matters, son." Silence hung, heavy as a verdict. When Eli got home that evening, the house was quiet. Too quiet. His mother sat on the couch holding her phone, eyes red from crying. "They think you know more than you're saying," she whispered. Eli's throat ached. He wanted to tell her everything. The joke, the thrill, the moment it all went wrong. But when he tried, the words stuck. Every lie he'd ever told sat like stones in his chest. She looked at him through her tears. "Tell me it isn't true." And he wanted to. He wanted to lie again, just one more time. But for the first time, even he didn't believe his own words anymore. Eli couldn't stop shaking. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ben lying in the woods, pale, still, broken. The lie that started as a game now had a face. He sat by his window late at night, scrolling through every rumor online. People were guessing who hurt Ben, and some comments mentioned him by name. That Turner kid knew something. He typed a message to explain, but stopped halfway. Every word he wrote looked like another trap. Lies were easy to start, but impossible to untangle once the truth began watching you. He locked his phone, pressed his forehead to the glass, and whispered into the night, "Please, just go away." But the truth doesn't go away. It waits quietly, patiently, until you look back. The next morning, school felt like a trial. Conversations stopped when Eli walked past. Every whisper carried his name. Every stare felt like an accusation. Even teachers looked uncertain. At his locker, he found a note, scribbled in red ink, "Liar." His hands trembled as he crumpled it. Ben was back at school today, everyone said, but Eli couldn't face him. He imagined Ben's eyes, tired, betrayed. He thought about running away, leaving everything behind. But you can't outrun a lie. It travels lighter than truth. It moves faster than guilt. And today, it was already waiting for him at the end of the hallway. He saw Ben for the first time since the woods. Ben looked thinner, paler, a faint bruise on his forehead. His eyes met Eli's, and in that look was everything Eli feared. Confusion, hurt, and the memory of betrayal. "Why'd you lie?" Ben asked quietly. Eli's throat locked. "I didn't mean to. I was just what?" Ben interrupted, his voice shaking. "Playing." The silence between them felt heavier than any accusation. Ben turned and walked away, leaving Eli standing in the hallway like a ghost of his own mistake. Some lies destroy others. This one destroyed the space between two friends who once laughed together. That evening, Eli tried to write the truth down in his notebook. Every detail of the lie, every word he wished he could take back. Maybe, if he wrote it all, it would stop haunting him. But as he wrote, the words blurred, his handwriting shaking. His lie had become part of him, something alive, something feeding on fear. A knock sounded on his door. His mother's voice, "Detective Moore is here again." Eli closed the notebook quickly, hiding it under his pillow. He stared at his hands, trembling, ink-stained, guilty. The door opened. The detective's calm voice filled the room. "We found something in the woods, Eli. We need to talk." In the living room, Moore placed a small plastic evidence bag on the table. Inside lay a silver bracelet. Eli recognized it instantly. It was Ben's. "We found this near where he was discovered," the detective said. "Your fingerprints are on it." Eli's heart stopped. He remembered picking it up days ago, laughing, tossing it in the dirt as part of his missing story. He never thought anyone would find it. His mother looked at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "Ellie, why?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His silence screamed louder than any confession ever could. The lie had turned full circle. It wasn't a joke anymore. It was a crime. The night after the bracelet was found, Eli's world turned silent. The sound of the detective's car pulling away felt like a door locking. His mother didn't speak to him. She just sat at the kitchen table, hands clasped, staring at the wood grain as if searching for the truth inside it. Eli tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw Ben's bracelet glinting under the flashlight. He heard the detective's calm voice repeating, "Your fingerprints are on it." The house no longer felt like home. It felt like a lie wearing walls. And in that darkness, Eli began to think of a new lie, one that might save him. But deep down, even he knew this one would be his last. Morning came with gray skies and no appetite. Sarah drove Eli to school in silence. The radio played softly, but every word felt heavy. When he stepped out of the car, she whispered, "Tell the truth, Eli, before it's too late." Her voice broke on the last word. Eli nodded, pretending he would. But once inside the school, fear twisted his promise. He pulled aside a few classmates, whispering, "They're wrong. I didn't hurt Ben. I was helping him. He ran off, and I tried to cover for him so he wouldn't get in trouble." The lie spilled easily, smoother than ever, desperate, polished, practiced. But as soon as he spoke it, he saw it spreading again, uncontrollable. He had learned nothing. His lies didn't save him. They just found new ways to drown him. By midday, Eli's new story had spread again. But this time, people didn't react with curiosity. They reacted with disgust. "Liar," someone muttered as he passed. Another threw a crumpled paper at his feet. "You can't fool anyone anymore." Even the teachers watched him differently, as if his very presence infected the air with doubt. Eli's stomach churned. The lie he'd built to survive was turning on him, twisting into something uglier, louder, unstoppable. He realized then that truth wasn't chasing him. It had already caught him, and now it was dragging his name through the halls he once owned with laughter. That afternoon, Ben confronted him again, this time with eyes full of sorrow, not anger. "They said you told everyone." "I ran away on purpose," Ben said quietly. Eli shook his head, panic rising. "No, that's not what I meant." "You keep saying that," Ben interrupted. "You always say you didn't mean it." "But you did, Eli. You meant every lie." Those words pierced deeper than any accusation. Eli wanted to shout that he was sorry, that he never wanted it to go this far. But even apology sounded like a trick now. Ben's voice broke. "I trusted you." And for the first time, Eli saw what his lies truly destroyed. Not his reputation, not his safety, but something far more fragile. Trust. That evening, Eli stood alone in his room, the world outside fading into night. His phone buzzed again. Messages, headlines, rumors. He threw it against the wall, in the mirror. His reflection stared back, pale and trembling. "You wanted to be noticed," he whispered to himself. "Well, now they see you." Tears filled his eyes. For the first time, he couldn't tell whether he was lying to himself or confessing. He sank to the floor, surrounded by the echoes of his own voice. The only voice no one believed anymore. Outside, the wind howled like laughter, the kind that once belonged to him, now mocking from the dark. By morning, Eli's name was everywhere. Online posts, rumors, whispers turned into stories. Some said he planned everything. Others said Ben almost died because of him. The truth didn't matter anymore. The story people believed had become its own truth, and Eli was its villain. He sat on the edge of his bed, scrolling through comments until the screen blurred through his tears. Every lie he had told had been for fun, for laughter. Now they were fuel for something crueler. He tried to defend himself, to type, "It wasn't like that," but each word looked empty. When you spend your life shaping lies, even your truth looks fake. The police called again. This time, it wasn't a visit, it was a summons. Eli sat in the back of the car beside his mother, watching raindrops crawl down the window. Neither spoke. The sound of the wipers was the only voice between them. At the station, Detective Moore greeted them quietly. His eyes weren't angry, just tired. "Eli, we need to hear everything from you." "No games." Eli nodded. His heart felt like glass ready to crack. He wanted to tell the truth, but where would he even start? Which lie did he begin with? Which lie would end him? He took a breath, his lips parted, and for the first time, he tried to speak. Honestly, he told them everything. The joke, the message, the lie that started it all. The detective listened silently, nodding only once. Sarah sat beside him, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. When Eli finished, there was no relief. Only emptiness. Moore spoke softly. "You didn't hurt him, Eli, but your lie hurt everyone else." Ali's chest trembled. He wanted to believe that meant forgiveness, but the detective's eyes said otherwise. "You made people lose trust," Moore continued. "And that's something no court can fix." The truth was out, but it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like standing in the ruins of a house he'd burned down himself. When they left the station, the rain had stopped, but the world still felt gray. Eli walked beside his mother, their hands not touching. She didn't yell, didn't cry. That silence was worse than anger. "Why, Eli?" she finally asked. Her voice broke on the word. He stared at the ground. "I just wanted people to notice me." She stopped walking. "Then you got what you wanted." The street was quiet except for the distant drip of water. Eli felt the truth hit harder than any punishment. Being seen for what had become, not what he wanted to be. The attention he once craved now felt like a curse carved into his name. That night, Eli sat on his bed, staring at his reflection in the dark window. The world outside glimmered with faint street lights, but inside everything felt dim. His phone buzzed. A message from Ben. It said only 2 words. "I forgive you." Eli read them over and over, tears spilling silently. It wasn't peace, not yet. But it was something. He whispered to himself, "It'll tell the truth. Every time. From now on." But as his own reflection stared back, he realized how fragile that promise was. Because trust, once shattered, never returns the same. And the hardest part wasn't making people believe him again. It was believing himself. Days passed, but school no longer felt like school. Eli walked the halls like a shadow, unseen by some, avoided by others. The laughter he used to chase was gone, replaced by the sound of footsteps moving away whenever he appeared. He no longer tried to explain. There was no story to tell, no audience left to believe it. He sat at the back of class, staring at Ben's seat across the room. now occupied again, but never the same. The silence he once feared had become his only companion, and somehow it felt fair. He had taken truth for granted, and now it refused to speak for him. At lunch, Ben approached his table. Eli looked up, expecting anger, but Ben's expression was calm, tired, almost kind. "I meant what I said," Ben murmured. "I forgive you." Eli swallowed hard. "You shouldn't," Ben sighed. "Maybe not. But I don't want to carry it anymore." They sat in silence for a while, two boys who had shared laughter and lies, now bound by what truth finally revealed. For the first time in weeks, Eli didn't feel like a ghost. He felt like someone who'd been given a chance, not to erase, but to learn. That evening, Eli helped his mother with dinner for the first time in months. The kitchen smelled of garlic and warmth. Small things that once felt ordinary now felt precious. Neither spoke much, but when she smiled faintly at him, it was enough. Forgiveness wasn't a grand moment. It was quiet, a space between pain and peace. Eli washed the dishes slowly, watching the water swirl away. For every plate he cleaned, it felt like a small part of the past rinsed with it. Truth, he realized, isn't just words. It's the courage to stop lying, even when silence feels easier. Later that week, the school counselor asked Eli to speak to younger students about honesty. He hesitated at first. Him, the boy whose lie almost ruined a life. But he went. He stood before them, palms sweating, voice trembling. He didn't preach or pretend to be wise. He just said, "I lied because I wanted to feel important." And it worked until it didn't. Because when people stop believing you, you stop believing yourself. The room stayed quiet, but the silence wasn't judgment. It was listening. And for the first time, Eli's words felt real. One evening, Eli sat by his window again, the same spot where his fear once began. The street below was calm, the same trees, the same quiet houses, yet everything looked different now. He took a deep breath and whispered, "I was the boy who lied for fun." He paused, eyes softening. "But I'm not anymore." The wind stirred the curtain slightly, carrying his words away, maybe to the same place his lies once lived. And for the first time, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt like truth. Gentle, patient, and finally his.